Hi, the SI meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, April 22nd. Well, it looks like an El Nino will develop in the tropical part of the Pacific Ocean over the summer and continue into the fall and perhaps even into the winter season. El Ninos are very important because they tend to have important impact on global weather conditions. Indeed, this particular upcoming El Nino could very well have an impact on the tropical season in the Atlantic Basin this summer and fall. And if it lasts into the winter season, it very well could have implications on the wintertime weather conditions here in the northeastern part of the U.S. Now, there are some that are predicting a super strong El Nino to form. I believe the odds are against that, and we'll get into some of the reasons as to why I believe the odds are against a super strong El Nino this time around over the next several minutes. Let's start off by looking at the very latest sea surface temperature anomalies. All these areas in yellow represent above normal sea surface temperatures. The blue, colder than normal sea surface temperatures. This particular line right here is the 0-degree latitude line, or the equator, and this is the west coast of South America. This is the part of the Pacific Ocean, the tropical Pacific, that we look at in terms of El Nino or La Nina. The last 2 or 3 years have been dominated by colder than normal sea surface temperatures in the tropical Pacific, La Nina conditions. So if indeed El Nino does form over the summer, it will be big news because it'll be quite a change from what we've experienced over the past couple of years. Now, there is indeed an area, a sliver of an area right over the equator right now with above normal sea surface temperatures, but it's just to the south of there continues to be colder than normal. Now, there are a couple of reasons why it is believed that El Nino will form. First of all, this particular area has increased relative to normal in sea surface temperature quite a bit over the past 3 or 4 weeks. Not only in that exact locality, but relative to surrounding areas, the increase has been greatest relative to normal right over the equator. So that's one reason that leads us to believe that the anomalies will continue to show warmer and warmer relative to normal conditions over the next few weeks. Also, there have been some measurements of temperatures just below the surface level in this part of the Pacific Ocean that are quite warm, and that too is indicative of perhaps a developing El Nino. And in fact, many computer forecast models are forecasting the development of an El Nino by the summer. Let's start off by looking at these computer forecasts right now. Well, here's a compilation of computer forecast models for the ENSO predictions. ENSO standing for El Nino Southern Oscillation, another way to say El Nino or La Nina in the tropical part of the Pacific Ocean. First of all, there's a whole series of dynamical models represented here, as well as statistical models. These statistical models, as the name would imply, just based on statistics. The dynamical models based on current conditions in the Pacific Ocean and around the world. This line right here is the neutral line. Anything below that is considered La Nina, or colder than normal, and anything above that neutral line is considered El Nino. And in fact, right now we are still in a La Nina condition in the tropical part of the Pacific Ocean. But as you can see, most of these, if not all of these computer forecast models predict an El Nino by the summertime, and here is the June, July, August time frame. Then it tends to level off and perhaps even slightly weaken as we approach the winter season, December, January, February, represented right here. Now, the super El Ninos in the recent past occurred in 1997, 1998, another one back in 1982, 1983. Both of those had significant impact on global temperatures on the warmer than normal side. Those particular super El Ninos reached this particular scale, 2 to 2.5, way up in this region right here. So none of these computer forecast models are going quite that strong. And there's another computer forecast model I'll kind of focus in on right now that comes from Japan, and it has had a pretty good track record of El Nino forecast. And let's take a look at that right now. Now, here's a computer forecast map from the Japanese. Again, it has had a pretty good track record in El Nino forecasting. This, the very latest from April, for the June, July, August sea surface temperature anomaly forecast, and here it is. Here is the El Nino region predicted by this particular Japanese model, and it gets fairly significant here in the middle part of the summer. Again, this is the June, July, August time frame. This is the west coast of South America. Now let's compare this to the wintertime forecast for the same particular model. And here you go. It tends to weaken. It certainly levels off the El Nino here. It does continue, and it kind of shifts a little bit to the west, focused in on the central part of the Pacific Ocean, but certainly a leveling off of the El Nino from this time frame over the summer to this particular time frame in the winter months of December, January, and February. So this model, which again has had a pretty good track record, indeed does develop an El Nino over the summertime, but it tends to level it off during the fall, and certainly by the time we get to the winter, it's perhaps a little bit weaker than what will be experienced over the summer according to this particular model. Well, another way to look at what has happened in the past relative to the forecast of a super El Nino is to take a look at this particular Nino Index. This is an index here where the reds represent El Nino conditions and the blues below normal sea surface temperatures, or La Nina conditions, going all the way back to 1950. Again, we had two super El Ninos in relatively recent history. Right here in 1997, 1998, and this one right here in 1982, 1983. And both of these super El Ninos followed relatively warm periods, as you can see right here and right here. And this, I think, is a key to the prediction of a super El Nino. We just do not have that situation in this current time frame. We've had relatively cold conditions here over the past 2 or 3 years in the tropical Pacific, with La Nina, or colder than normal conditions, prevailing over the last 2 or 3 years. Typically following a cold period such as what occurred here, you get a relatively weak El Nino, not a super strong El Nino. Again, these two super strong El Ninos followed 2 or 3 year periods that were warmer than normal, whereas right now we are following a colder than normal time period for the last couple of years. So I think that is kind of supporting evidence against the development of a super strong El Nino this time around. Well, there was one other index called the Southern Oscillation Index, the SOI, that gives an indication as to whether El Nino conditions are developing, or if in fact they can be strong or sustained. And this has had kind of a good track record in predicting upcoming El Ninos, if in fact this particular index, which by the way measures the pressure difference between Tahiti and Darwin, if this index is sustained and negative for a long period of time, that could be a predictor of a strong El Nino. But that is just not happening right now as compared to those super El Nino years of 97, 98, 82, 83. We'll take a look at the SOI index for those particular super El Ninos. In the last 90 days, it has been negative, but only on the order of minus 2.5, not at all compared to what we saw during the 97-98 time frame, or the time period just before that, and the 82-83 time period. In fact, the very latest SOI region index values are now back into positive territory. So not only are we not seeing a strongly negative sustained period as we did in other super strong El Ninos, but the very last readings, the last several days, put us into positive territory, which is contrary to what one would expect for a super strong El Nino. Well, here's in fact that Southern Oscillation Index for the 1997-1998 super strong El Nino. It was on the order of minus 20 to minus 30 for a couple of years heading into that super strong El Nino time period. We are not seeing SOI values that sustained, that negative in the current climate here. Now, things could change over the next several weeks or a few months, but as of right now, it's not at all like it was preceding the super strong El Nino of 97-98. Let's also take a look at the 8283 SOI. And here it is for the 8283, similar to the 9798, on the order of minus 20 to minus 30 here in terms of the SOI index, leading right up to that super strong El Nino of 8283. So again, both of those super strong El Ninos saw SOI values on the order of minus 20 to minus 30 for a couple of months, or a couple of years in fact, whereas right now, the last 90 days, we're only down to minus 2.5. In fact, the very last several daily readings are back into positive territory. So, yes, in fact, there looks like there will be an El Nino developing over the summer, but I think odds are against a super strong El Nino developing over the summer or fall. We'll continue to monitor all of this over the next several weeks and months to come here at the SIweather.com. That's it for now. I'm the SI meteorologist, Paul Dorian.